All right, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thanks so much for joining. We had many people register for this webinar, so we're super excited to share what we've learned from this beta testing process and talk with you guys about, what's next for a digital platform like this to help with social and behavior change work. A quick review of our agenda, what we have planned today. We'll start with a little bit of introductions and then we'll get right into it. We'll be sharing a bit of information just generally about Amplio and background on the SBC Impact Designer. And then I think what you're all here for, the bulk of our time will be spent discussing the beta test findings and our recommendations for moving forward. And then at the end, we will have time for some audience Q&A and discussion. There should be some folks in the room that participated in the beta test, so would love to hear some of your responses to what we're sharing as well. And then we also have a couple of featured panelists that we'll be talking with throughout the time together as well. So with that, let's get into some introductions. So first of all, to our audience participants, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat and also maybe a quick response to this question, what's the biggest challenge that you face with doing SBC work? You know, what are you working on? And how do you think about social and behavior change? And yeah, what challenges maybe do you face with that? So would love to get some engagement with the chat from everybody on that while we, the panelists, introduce ourselves. So my name is Lindsay Dakin, and I'm the Product and Quality Assurance Director with Amplio. I've been leading the development and testing of this SBC Impact Designer platform. And I've been with Amplio for 4.5 years now, was previously in a program management role working with all of our partners. And then before that, I was doing M&E work with NGOs in Uganda. I lived and worked in Uganda for a few years. Over to Elizabeth and Fidelis. Elizabeth, do you want to say a couple words to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Elizabeth Akwewe. I'm from Nigeria. I've been on the SBC train for over a decade now, working in the health sector, peace, conflict management, waste management, youth development. So it's all the works. So been there and seen quite some. So it'd be nice to engage with each and every one of you over the period that we'll be together this evening. And then it was quite an experience working with Lindsay and the team on this app. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And Fidelis, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Fidelis Dauri Aunadama. I'm working with Amplio Ghana. I have been involved in social and behavior change communication projects implementation for over 8 years now. I've worked on SBCC programs using the talking books, radio, and other channels. Currently, I'm managing a project on health, peace, and social cohesion covering 4 districts in the Upper West region, using the radio, rotating talking books, among talking books to help facilities to use for their outreach activities. Thank you.
Thanks, Fidelis. So excited to have a chance to speak with Fidelis and Elizabeth during our time today. As you can see, they have a lot of expertise in the social and behavior change world, and it's been, just a true pleasure, really, really valuable to work with them on the testing of this new platform. So let's get into it. Just to set the stage with a little bit of background. What is social and behavior change, SBC? What are we talking about when we're talking about SBC? There's a lot of great evidence-based frameworks out there, a lot that's been documented, and they range from fairly simple, like this one for the Designing for Behavior Change framework from USAID, developed by USAID, to really, really complex. Those of you that have been working in this space, engaging with SBC work, knows that it's challenging and can be incredibly complex. And so, you know, what we wanted to do was try to figure out how to build a tool that would simplify the process and make that more accessible. But there's, you know, for all the different frameworks and documentation that's out there, there's some common elements that you really see here. I think this DBC framework illustrates really, really well. You start by, of course, identifying and defining the behavior that you're trying to target. What's that change that you want to see? And then you get into a lot of formative research to identify your target audiences, maybe primary audiences that are the ones that you're hoping to adopt that target behavior. And then you also want to look at secondary influencer audiences. Who influences the behavior and the attitudes of those primary actors? And then this is where it gets, you know, sticky, is that you really want to come to a deep understanding of those audiences, and particularly the behavioral drivers and barriers that either motivate what they do, how they approach the world, and what they're doing in their lives, and also the barriers, what kind of stops them, what hinders them from taking up maybe the behavior that you're trying to influence. And then from there, once you've identified, come to that deep understanding, you design interventions around that. So for example, in this case, if you identify that a barrier to vaccine uptake is access, you know, it takes time and resources to go to the health center and wait some few hours to get the vaccination that you're looking for. How could you design an intervention that removes some of those access barriers, makes it easier for folks to access? So that's a fairly simple example. As you can see, again, it can get quite complex unpacking all the drivers and barriers and identifying, you know, the most effective interventions to address them. So just wanted to set the stage with a bit of definition on what we mean when we're talking about social and behavior change. And so again, with the SBC Impact Designer software, what Amplio wanted to do is develop a digital tool to make the SBC process much more accessible, easier, more efficient, so that those SBC best practices, those kind of methodologies, would become more mainstreamed across programs and sectors. We believe, we understand that social and behavior change, you know, there's SBC elements involved in virtually any project that we might be doing. And so, yeah, we really wanted to make it easier for folks to take that up. So a bit about Amplio, who we are and why we're working in this space. Amplio has over 16 years of experience designing digital solutions for social and behavior change. We've had partnerships in 14 countries. You can see a selection of the partners that we've worked with on the right there, reaching over 2 million people to date. And we've done that through our flagship technology, the Amplio Talking Book, which offers a solution for reaching remote rural communities with low levels of literacy, who otherwise have really limited access to information and communications technologies, other ways to kind of share and receive information. So the Talking Book delivers on-demand audio content in local languages, particularly targeting those communities. So, but in all of our years working with partners to implement this technology, what we came to understand is that while the Talking Book is a really valuable solution to a problem that projects are trying to solve, it's only as impactful as the quality of the content that goes onto it. And, you know, Amplio is, as you heard from Fidelis, and he'll talk more about this, offers consulting services. We work with our partners to help them to develop really, really impactful messaging. But again, we thought that a digital platform, a digital tool like the SBC Impact Designer would make that kind of work even more widely available, that kind of support more widely available to project teams around the world. So what is this tool? You know, in developing this platform, our hypothesis was that great static tools are already available. There's tons of resources. There's tons and tons, a mountain of information that you can find out there about how to do social and behavior change work. But again, it's a lot to digest for teams with limited bandwidth, with limited expertise, you know, yeah, with limited resources to work with to dive into this. So we wanted to develop a software program that would help make these resources more digestible, more accessible, more efficient to kind of jump into. And smarter. We leveraged AI throughout the platform to help provide suggestions, tap into that knowledge base that AI has access to, as well as, you know, drawing on the context about your project, what you're working on, that you're inputting into the platform, to help you kind of get started, at least kind of avoid that blank page and provide some suggestions for you to sort of get started, whether it's developing a program, a problem statement, or some messaging content, and so forth. And then the other thing that we were really excited about was when we heard from users while we were sort of scoping out the project and understanding what the needs were. We heard that one key challenge is collaboration, whether it's internally within teams or even like across country teams or between a HQ and a country team, or externally across multiple stakeholders. You know, when you're bringing together a lot of different actors on a project, how do you kind of keep everybody on the same page and keep everybody involved with the process throughout the process, you know, not just in an initial design phase consultation, but, you know, keeping people engaged throughout. So we integrated WhatsApp to make it easy to broadcast information and updates about the projects. And we'll talk about a little bit more about what we found, how successful that was. So, right, we wanted to develop a platform that would help with strategy design, as well as communications and monitoring and reporting. So let's get into the beta test. So we started beta testing about a year ago in July 2023. We wanted to get the platform into the hands of real world projects to see how folks would use it and what would be most valuable in the work that you're trying to do. And just to test, you know, would our hypothesis that a digital tool would help make the SBC process more accessible, efficient, and collaborative prove to be correct? You know, does this thing add value in this space? So we partnered with 15 projects around the world, although mainly in sub-Saharan Africa. It was a closed beta test, so by invitation only, not just open to anybody and everybody. You can see the set of partners we worked with here. And then in particular, let's start to bring in Elizabeth and Fidelis as representatives of our 2 case study projects that we really looked closely at in understanding how folks were engaging with this platform. So with that, Elizabeth and Fidelis, could you just give a very brief summary of these projects? What was the context? What were the objectives? What was the project approach? And what was your role in this project? Maybe Elizabeth, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. That was a great overview. And I want to applaud Amplio for the good job they're doing in making the SBC work easier. So I tested the SBC app with the ongoing HPV vaccination introduction in Nigeria. So it's a new vaccine that was introduced to curb cervical cancer, and it was targeted at girls aged 9 to 14. And it was going to be proposed to be rolled out in two phases, the multi-cohort campaign phase, and then introduced into the EPI schedule. So after the initial 5 days of the campaign, it's expected that you just walk into a health facility and you have access to the vaccine. So my task on the project was to develop, effectively pass the message across and increase and sustain uptake of the vaccine. So I could say it wasn't really familiar ground for a country that is used to introducing vaccines for just babies, so this was uphill. We're going to be talking to teenage girls in rural communities and in schools. And so it was not going to be business as usual. And so testing out with the app was really an opportunity because, as we know, one of the biggest challenges with SBC work is that we go out of our comfort zone to ensure that every decision made is evidence-based. And the beauty of the app is it's like a trusted body that guides you through the process. So you get the information that you really need, and so that sort of helps you with managing your time and your resources in terms of ensuring you have a formative research and ensuring the research is targeted. And then, of course, the app actually takes you through deep thinking. It takes you to think deeply through the process. And that makes you challenge norms, really, because if you have teams that don't want to be anybody, they don't want to go through the time, the rigor, and the cost of engaging people outside the EPI family, Expanded Program on Urbanization family. So when you have an application that makes you think deeply through the process and challenges you to engage outside your traditional circles, I mean, that was the benefit of engaging. And so we were able to get a communication plan in place, and particularly it was very helpful in actually looking at the communication messages. Again, when you have people who are used to a certain process of developing messages for radio, TV, media in general, and then you want to ensure these messages are targeted, and then you're guided by an application like this, it was an uphill task. But then I'm happy we've introduced the vaccine. We've gone through all the rumors and challenges, and it was quite an experience. For me as a professional, it was an honor. I think it was for me also like a training, a refresher course, a training, a guide, a fine-tuning. And then it just helped make my work easier. So thank you, Amplio.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Fidelis, can you just briefly give an overview of this MSR project that you were working on in Ghana and what Amplio's role was?
Thank you so much, Lindsay. In Ghana, we piloted the Impact Designer in the USAID funded Market Systems Resilience project. This project goal was to make extension education accessible on demand to rural smallholder farmers to increase their adoption of improved technology and good agricultural practices. It was also to break the gender divide on access to extension education among rural women farmers. So this project targeted 300 groups with 25 people in each group in 9 districts across 3 regions in northern Ghana. Upper West, Northern Region, and Northeast. My role was to use the Impact Designer to develop messages covering good agricultural practices, targeting maize, bambara beans, soybeans, cowpea, groundnut, horticulture, mango, and then moringa. So we produced the scripts, and then we recorded the messages in 5 languages across the 3 regions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Fidelis. So we'll hear much more from Fidelis and Elizabeth. We've got more questions for them coming up, but the beta test was mainly qualitative. We conducted over 40 interviews and conversations with participants, folks that were engaging with us on this beta test. But we also shared a survey with participants as well, got a bit of quantitative data. So here's just a little snapshot of one of the quantitative findings, the pieces of information that we were able to get. Overall satisfaction with the Impact Designer was, pretty good. Most users giving a score of 4 on a scale of 1 to 5, and an overall average score of 3.6. As we'll see, there were a lot of recommendations, a lot of suggestions for ways that we can improve the platform to make it even more useful for folks in their work. But yeah, I think starting from this initial iteration, a pretty good level of satisfaction. So we framed the beta test in terms of 5 main research questions that guided our analysis of the quantitative and qualitative data. And so, yeah, I'm going to bring Elizabeth and Fidelis in to offer some discussion on each of the questions. This first question that we were exploring is, in what ways is the software changing project teams' approach to SBC? How did they do it before, and what's different now with the introduction of this digital platform? So Elizabeth, I'd love to go back to you for a minute. Can you speak a little bit more on how the platform influenced your approach to SBC?
I could say in terms of a more structured approach, it was a good guide for me, especially when you have people that are used to sitting on their laptops and thinking about what's best for everyone. One of the principles of our SBC is ensuring that we co-create interventions with beneficiaries and across stakeholders. So this software made it easy to think through the process in terms of wanting you to be familiar with your target audience, your stakeholders and beneficiaries, and taking you through trying to understand where they are before you started your intervention, and then getting to understand what they think about the intervention, and then even taking you through how to communicate with your targeted audience. So that's simply put though, but it was really a structured step-by-step approach. And then I noticed there was no way you could answer questions on the other level if you wanted to speed track the process if you didn't address the fundamentals from the onset.
Great, Elizabeth. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes. Great. So so the software helped kind of provide a more structured, systematic approach, help keep things really evidence-based. Yeah, we heard, and you mentioned a bit about sort of managing complexity. I think, we heard from other users that in some cases, maybe the platform felt a little bit too rigid, or on the other side, a little bit too complex, like it was difficult to kind of figure out how to take, real world formative research findings and put that into the platform and then turn that into something actionable. So a little bit more work maybe we can do around with the platform helping us sort of manage and guide users through complexity was one of the broader, takeaways that I got from from the data across all the users. On to
Exactly.
our next research question. Again, this is pretty broad, but we really wanted to dig into what elements of the software were most useful to project teams. You know, the software was doing a lot from, you know, walking people through the design process, the strategy development process, building a theory of change, you know, building a communication strategy, doing monitoring and reporting. You know, there was a lot that the platform was trying to do, and we were really trying to zero in on, you know, what is adding the most value for users. So I'm going to go over to Fidelis now. You know, what was your experience with using the platform, and what did you find most valuable, and then what could, you know, use more improvement?
Thank you. I think that the software, it was easy to use, and using it also reduced time spent in developing message scripts. I also like the behavioral drivers model, as well as the SBC approaches sections. In fact, I read them like storybook because they are very simple, well explained, and they are very interesting. However, I think that there could be an opportunity to add that is not on the platform. If I want to use a behavior change theory that is not on the platform, there could be an opportunity for me to add it.
Great. Thanks, Fidelis. Yeah, I think on the behavioral drivers portion, we leveraged the UNICEF behavioral drivers model, which is an amazing resource that really catalogs a lot of the different drivers and barriers that influence people's behavior from a really sort of behavioral science-based perspective. And so we made that sort of easier to browse and used AI to understand, to kind of pinpoint which of the behavioral drivers might be most relevant for the project that you're working on. So did a lot of work on the platform to try to make it make that pretty complex model, you know, easier to access for folks. And yeah, Fidelis, as you heard, you know, liked that. We had mixed from across all the users, sort of mixed reactions to the behavioral drivers. Some people really liked it because it was such a strong sort of theoretical foundation for approaching this. And as we heard from Fidelis, who has, you know, lots of experience in this field, yeah, he was into it. But for folks that maybe were newer to SBC, you know, didn't quite understand how to sort of approach or wrap their heads around, you know, this complex framework, that was maybe a little bit overwhelming, or they just found it kind of difficult to apply practically. So that was one of the things that we were kind of mixed reviews. Overall, folks really liked, of course, incorporating the AI suggestions, and saw a lot of potential for the internal collaboration functionality of the platform, which we'll hear more about in a minute with our next questions. And then there were also mixed reactions to more of the monitoring and evaluation and program management aspects of the platform, the theory of change and the monitoring and evaluation parts. People found them useful, but maybe they were also difficult to use, or didn't integrate well with existing structures or existing processes that organizations might be using to, say, monitor and report on their program. So if there's an external donor-facing monitoring framework that you're expected to use, you know, how does that integrate with the platform? Currently, we didn't have a great way to kind of bring that in, bring those things together. So that was a valuable piece of feedback. On the next question, how effective is AI integration, and how are users engaging with that feature or want to engage with that feature? Elizabeth and Fidelis, I'm going to bring this question to you both, because I know both of you had some really interesting insights about this. So maybe starting with Fidelis, what was your experience using AI to support the SBC design process through this platform? Where can it add value, and what are some of the risks or some of the challenges or limitations?
Yes, I think that AI can help process and analyze large data sets to identify patterns and trends in behavior. And I also think that AI can help segment audience more precisely and deliver personalized messages that resonate with the target audience, which can lead to behavior change. And as I said earlier, using AI to develop SBCC materials can reduce time and resources. However, I also think that AI can also mislead you, because if the AI do not understand the local cultures and contexts, it will lead to designing ineffective messages. So that is what I have. And in areas where you have limited access to electricity, it might be difficult using AI. Thank you.
Thanks, Fidelis. Great insights. Yeah, Elizabeth, over to you as well. What was your experience using AI? What's the potential for AI to support SBC work, and what are some of the risks or challenges?
Okay, in addition to what Fidelis said, I think I'm in total agreement with what he said. And I also think there's potential for, from my experience with the application, there's potential for using this app as a training tool as well. And I think that should be explored, because AI has this this access to vast information and experiences globally. And then with the kind of structured guidance that the app SBC app offers, if you go through the step of understanding, having a formative research, then you have the context, the local context in place. And then the added advantage of AI is being able to, and I've experienced that in other projects that I've used AI with, being able to ask AI structured questions, and questions that are contextualized. I mean, and I think it's also an opportunity to both train yourself as a professional and also train the AI in terms of understanding the context and designing specifics to the context, the local context. So I think it underscores the need for that formative research, the initial evidence, the groundwork, which the AI can't do. So AI feeds off proper groundwork. So the reverse is the case if you depend on AI to do desk review, and then you begin to depend on that. But if you have ground survey, contextual, it even helps AI give you better output. So that's my experience. And I think I mean, it's great to have an AI buddy, like I always say.
For sure, Elizabeth, thanks. Yeah, a couple really important, I think, issues that Elizabeth and Fidelis raised is that, again, here the AI, the outputs from the AI are only as good as the quality of the inputs that you give it. And I think users expressed in the beta test, that the AI was not currently living up to their expectations. The AI outputs, as Fidelis raised, maybe often lacked, contextual relevance, a deeper understanding of the context that somebody on the ground like Elizabeth or Fidelis might have. We can't lose that. We don't want to lose that in the process of trying to leverage AI to make this work easier and more efficient. So yeah, it's an interesting challenge to try to maximize, how to use AI in this context in a responsible and effective way. But one sort of more specific insight, sort of piece of feedback that we got from users in the beta test was that it would be helpful for users to maybe interact more with the AI, to coach it, to refine and improve upon the suggestions that it was generating. So right now in the platform, we have a way that it will generate a suggestion, for a piece of information, a question in response to a question on the platform. And if you don't like that suggestion, you could refresh and have it generate again, but there's not really kind of an opportunity for more of a back and forth exchange, like maybe we're more used to now with ChatGPT or other, chat, generative AI chat features that we're able to interact with. So that was valuable to hear that it would be nice to be able to have more of that back and forth with the AI within the platform. Okay, and on to our last couple questions around collaboration. Again, that was one thing that we thought would add value for this platform. First of all, from an internal perspective, does the software enable project teams to collaborate better internally? And yeah, Fidelis, I'll throw this one over to you for some discussion. What was your experience using the platform to support collaboration within the team? Or what do you see is the potential there, and how could the platform be improved, to better serve that?
Yes, internally, we have staff that have experience in SBC, and we also have staff that are not having experience in SBC. But with this software, I realized that because it was easy to use, everybody was able to log into the platform to be able to learn and do something with it. I also realized that the platform can be used across various projects. Beside the agric project that we are testing, I also try it with our peace and security projects. And I think that it's a great tool that cut across various areas in SBC. I think that with all the suggestions and recommendations that we have given over the learning period, if they are incorporated into the designer, it will be a better tool for other people to use. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Fidelis. Yeah, a lot, this idea about sort of, excuse me, using the tool for capacity building and, helping team members with maybe less SBC expertise and experience kind of get involved in the process and learn about these approaches. Yeah, that came up a lot across all the users on the beta test. Although on the other side of it, some users commented that right now the platform is maybe a bit complex, a bit maybe, again, overwhelming for users that are new to the process, new to these ideas to jump into. Some users expressed specifically that it felt like it was built more for like program managers, M&E managers, folks with like a little bit more of an advanced understanding of how to approach these projects. And so that was valuable to hear as well, to think about where could we simplify, make the platform even more accessible, or at least provide some additional guidance throughout the platform for how to sort of think about these things that it's introducing. Okay, last, I think this is our fifth question. Last question, collaboration from an external perspective. Does the software enable projects to collaborate better externally? And Elizabeth, I know you've got some great insights on this. What was your experience with stakeholder engagement on this HPV vaccination project? And what do you see as the potential for a platform like this to support that kind of engagement and coordination?
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. For me, I engage this app with a complex project. And so collaboration both internally and externally was interesting because I was relating with the project had to do with several local and international organizations working hard to have visibility and for relevance and impact. And so basically, when you have, even internally, when you have teams, um, you have a large organization with teams that want to work in silos. It will be challenging, really. And then how much more you have stakeholders from different organizations that have their administrative, their policies, administrative procedures, and constraints. So I think at the level of policy, we still have to look closely because some organizations already have internal policies against the use of AI for projects. And so this is going to have to go through administrative policy scrutiny at that level of policy. But then the potential is as individual professionals. I mean, it's handy as a pocket tool any day, anytime. And that's the access point really, because from what you've been saying in the discussions, those who are new to the process may find it difficult to understand some of the intricacies. But then at the level of managing projects, I, there are no restrictions as to what tools the individual professional uses to get his job done. And I think that was the experience I had. And I was lucky I had this app running within the time of the project. But like Fidelis said, the opportunity to run so many different projects at the same time, and if you have a smaller team um, without so many policy restrictions, it's great for capacity building, great for collaboration, and great all around. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Elizabeth was working within a really complex project. A lot of different parties involved with different interests, and yeah, a lot of bureaucratic hurdles to getting those folks, the necessary approvals to, use this new tool, was an important insight through this process as well. I just wanted briefly to speak about the WhatsApp integration. I described that a bit earlier, how we used WhatsApp. Honestly, beta test users really barely used that feature, which just indicates to us that, there's more work that we need to do to enhance how we've integrated WhatsApp, or, reconsider what other approaches we might take to yeah, kind of bringing external folks into the process, into the project design and implementation process. Yeah, I'll leave that there, but happy to discuss more in the Q&A maybe. So those were our 5 research questions, kind of a summary of what we found in relation to each of those. The last bit that we'll talk about is what are our recommendations for the platform, for this platform or any platform that's trying to approach project management and social and behavior change. So first of all, we know that we want to enhance data integration. One of the things that came up really frequently from users was, really wanting to be able to import existing project documents or formative research more directly onto the platform, and be able to sort of, again, provide the platform with more and better inputs to work with to inform the design process. Elizabeth, I know this came up a bit in our discussion as well, and you had some great ideas about how to use a platform, a digital platform, to support the formative research process. Could you just speak to the potential here? How would you see this working? What value would it add? And what role can AI play?
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Really, like I see a comment from the chat in terms of the restriction, if standard SBC steps and processes will, the restriction it will have on the entire project. I mean, in terms of, yes, it looks good, you have a guided step through it, but then the restrictions that may arise. For me, it would be nice to have um, an additional step before before we start designing the program. And that will be steps that will take you through another structured process of developing the baseline, the research, the formative research. And I think the bottom line for this SBC app is provoking deep thinking. I mean, it's if you have professionals that are on a project to support the project, you are expected to think deeply about the different processes and see how you um, you move the process forward and have maximum impact. So that said, I think it would be important to, okay, from my experience using the app, we had a formative research, qualitative research. So if the app was structured in such a way that that information could be integrated into the process, it would have made it a bit easier. But I know it's possible for you to have AI guide you through, help the app guide you through having the critical questions answered and gathering the critical information needed for the project. So I think that's a step. It'd be nice to have that plug just before we start SBC interventions. And that would be awesome, really, because I think you still have bits of the audience analysis coming into the formative research, baseline situation analysis, and how they respond to messages. So that's like, I think that's where we should start from, really. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Elizabeth. For sure, yeah, more we could do to support the formative research process. How do you go out and get the information that you need to inform all of these steps that you're taking, through the design process, for sure. And then using AI to help with that formative research planning, but also, of course, the analysis and digestion of findings from that as well. Yeah, so relatedly, refine how the platform leverages AI and the different linkages between the sections, how AI uses information from the platform that's already there to inform what it's suggesting. And in particular, in terms of content development, Fidelis, I know that you had some great ideas about how we could use AI in a better way to help with the messaging and content development. Did you want to share a little bit about your thoughts around that? I think he might have dropped off, unfortunately. So maybe if we get him back, we'll hear his thoughts. But basically, trying to use AI, again, as we raised before, refining the inputs that we provide so that it can generate some more contextually relevant suggestions, and in particular, helping with iterative content development. So, the AI might suggest a set of message points, key points, or even a full message script, but having more of a chance to, again, sort of have some exchange with the AI to iterate on that, refine that, and make it as contextually relevant as possible for your audiences. And then the other thing too, we definitely, see that the AI is not currently living up to users' expectations. And so there's ways that we need to improve the AI, but there's also maybe ways that we need to manage those expectations about what AI can and can't deliver. And so maybe integrate a little bit more guidance or coaching on, how to engage with AI, best practices around that, and how to interact with it to get, the outputs that you're looking for. Okay, just we're running short on time a little bit. I'm going to sort of breeze through these last couple of slides with these last recommendations. Offering more guided experiences throughout the platform. As we said, folks, at least especially users that had less expertise with SBC, wanted a little bit more sort of background and guidance to go on as they sort of worked through the process. Having info icons or additional resources or more step-by-step kind of guidance, little tutorials that we could introduce perhaps. And then also where we could maybe simplify some of the language or some of the ideas of it as well. And then collaboration, yeah. So recognizing that there's ways that we could better support the collaboration that we see is useful, that many users said, yeah, this is great to especially help with internal collaboration. But incorporating features, people suggested, features for reviewing and commenting and, a version history, version control, kind of tracking changes, things like that, that's not currently available in the platform. Being able to define a little bit better user permissions, different users that have different levels of access and editing access or view access, things like that. And then, of course, iterating on the WhatsApp integration, continuing to explore how to leverage that. And finally, then this is maybe a big one, removing project management features. So really streamlining the platform a bit to remove some of the features that folks engaged with less or kind of expressed were less helpful for them, particularly around activity management and monitoring and evaluation. As we said, there were concerns that were raised about how the platform integrated with monitoring and evaluation external frameworks that you were working with. We of course never want to remove that entirely, but think about maybe how to streamline it and just really recognize that, our competitive advantage with this platform is maybe not in more traditional program management or M&E. There are other platforms out there that do that really well. Where our sweet spot we see is around, formative research analysis to inform messaging and communications, and really focusing in on the social and behavior change messaging kind of component of it. So with that, the way that we see this platform moving forward is building out those elements that, as Elizabeth just described, helps you to gather and analyze formative research, develop those really in-depth audience profiles, and then, from there, creating a really targeted, actionable messaging strategy that, as Fidelis has described, is able to really provide that contextual understanding of your audiences, leveraging AI at every step of the way. So that's kind of where we see the platform going. And those are our slides. I know we've just got a few more minutes, but we are going to be, I think I saw a question in the chat already about sharing the recording. We have recorded, we'll send that around. We'll also send these slides around. And then also we have the full report on the beta test findings that we've developed that's ready to share publicly as well. So we'll send that around so you can really read in depth all of the findings, but these slides, this presentation has been a pretty good summary of what we describe in the report. So with that, I don't know if there are any other questions that anybody wants to raise. Let me take a quick look at the chat to see if there's anything else. a list of the various existing or similar tools you base this on. Yeah, that's a great question, Christina. And I appreciate your point as well about it would have been helpful to see the app in action. If you're interested, we can grant you access, sort of temporary access to go into the platform and poke around and see for yourself. The beta test is closed. We don't really have active users on it at this point as we kind of take stock and do some additional development and figure out what's next. But yeah, if you reach out to us, we can grant you temporary access so you can take a look. And then yeah, I can try to send as well a list of some of the other, there's one platform in particular that I'm familiar with called b.world. Maybe I'll put that in the chat here, not to sort of shout out to our competitors, but it's not a competition thing, right? They've done really great work in a similar space, not targeted on SBC, but more general sort of project management and impact tracking, ways that they've leveraged AI in similar ways to kind of help with the project design and management process. Think big work. Christina, I don't actually know if I am familiar with that. So would love to hear some more, to get some more resources, hear a little bit more about that. So yeah, again, yeah, we will share some follow-up resources in the next day or two with everybody that registered for the presentation here, and then we'll share a little bit more publicly as well with our full Amplio audience in a little bit too. I know we're coming right up at our time. Any last questions? Anybody want to come off mute and raise anything before we close out? But yeah, thanks for all the inputs in the chat. So the last thing I'll say, feel free to reach out to us. We've got our Amplio email, info@amplio.org here, that you can, yeah, reach out to us if you want to know more about our work in this space, our work in the SBC space. If you want to talk to Fidelis more about what we offer in terms of social and behavior change, consulting and resources, or also if you want to learn more about the Talking Book. I mentioned our other technology, the Talking Book. If you want to hear more about that, we'd be happy to chat with you as well. Elizabeth and Fidelis, do you want to just say a couple words of goodbye?
Oh,
Fidelis?
I wish I could just say goodbye, but thank you so much for having me here. And then I'm available to support with any SBC project anywhere in the world. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah, Elizabeth, drop your email in the chat as well if folks want to reach out to you, for sure. Elizabeth
All right,
is a
I'll do that.
wonderful professional. It's been my privilege to work with her throughout this project. And yeah, you've got some amazing insights. So yeah, everybody get in touch with Elizabeth if you want to talk more also. And Fidelis, I know we lost you for a minute, but I believe you came back. Are you here?
Yes, I'm around.
Great. Well,
my network disturbed along the line.
I know, sorry. Well, we're closing out if you want to say goodbye.
Yes, I would thank everybody that participated in this meeting. And as Lindsay said, we'll share the recordings with everybody. If you still need to maybe test it, the opportunity will be given to you. But if you want to know much about Amplio, what we do, would reach out for us to discuss. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. All right, have a great rest of your day. We'll be in touch again soon. Bye-bye.